I'm Jack Brink. I'm the curator of archaeology at the Royal Alberta Museum, and I've written a book. It's called Imagining Head Smashed In, Aboriginal Buffalo Hunting on the Northern Plains. It's a book about buffalo hunting, and more specifically, it's a book about the great dynamic buffalo hunts that took place where large numbers of animals were killed at a single time. Perhaps the most dramatic example of that is the buffalo jump, of which I'm standing at Head Smashed In now, probably the most famous and deservedly so of all the buffalo jumps we know on the Northern Plains. I use Head Smashed In as a sort of focal point for the story I tell. It's not about this site per se. The story really is about how did the native people of the plains orchestrate these great communal hunts where they killed dozens, sometimes hundreds of animals at a single moment. As I thought about this when I was writing the book, I realized, thinking back over the animals that people have killed ever since we came out of Africa millions of years ago, I can't think of a single instance where more food was obtained, more meat, more fat, more hide, in the span of literally a few moments than was true of a buffalo jump or a buffalo pound. That is the use of a corral to trap large numbers of animals. So if you think around the world, all throughout human history, there may not be a better example of people stocking in supplies of meat and fat and hide all in one single moment than happened here at sites like Head Smashed In. The more I thought about it, the more I thought, this is a remarkable story. It needs to be recorded and written down. And to do that, I draw largely on historical quotes and references from what we call the primary literature, the first explorers and fur traders, missionaries, and trappers who came across this country and recorded the great days of the last days, really, of the buffalo hunts. This provides us with a wealth of information about how these events took place, and I combine that with archaeological information, archaeological data that we've learned from many excavations, such as the ones that went on here at Head Smashed In. The more I read and the more I thought about this story, I really thought this is one of the great stories of Western North America, and I didn't think it had been fully or properly recorded, and then it should be. It's a story we shouldn't allow to be forgotten. We shouldn't let this disappear. Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump has an interpretive center here, which carries on some of the traditions of the great stories, but I felt a need to put all this down in one place in one book. I've tried to do my best at that and do justice to the story. I think the overwhelming feeling that I had when I was writing was to try and convey a sense of respect for what these people did. The way they manipulated the landscape, the way they manipulated herds of bison, the knowledge of buffalo behavior and biology that these people have. The more I thought about it and read about it, the more astonished I was that this was truly an extraordinary story. We're only now beginning to learn many of the things about animals and about animal-man relationships and about the use of the environment that clearly these people understood thousands of years ago and put to practical daily use to make these great kills happen. And so I think it's something that should be humbling for us to think about as a story of which we don't know all the answers yet, and we don't know all the things that these people knew 3, 4, 5,000 years ago. And I think that was a great motive for me to write this book. Put this down and get this out into the public, that something really remarkable happened a long time ago. It's buried in the past now. There are elders around who still know great parts of the story. And this should be communicated to a wider audience. That was my mission, that was my goal. And these clips you're invited to look at help tell some of that story of the book and the buffalo jump